So this study addressed the question of whether higher nicotine levels in electronic cigarettes and such as JUUL were associated with higher rates of switching away from smoking, and we approached this through a comparison of products in different jurisdictions. Now, the greatest public health benefit of ENDS, including JUUL, will come from helping smokers switch away from smoking by providing an adequate substitute of nicotine. And that implies that at least for some smokers, higher levels of nicotine may enable more smokers to switch. So we looked at the nicotine levels in the UK and in North America in JUUL products to see if they were associated with different levels of switching. In the UK, nicotine concentrations are limited by the Tobacco Product Directive, and in JUUL products, the highest level is 18 milligrams per ml. In the US, where the TPD doesn't apply, the higher JUUL product is 59 milligrams per ml, and indeed in both jurisdictions, most smokers were using the higher levels of nicotine product that were available. We looked at this in a longitudinal study in which adults who bought a JUUL product were followed at 1, 3, and 6 months to assess whether they had switched, which we defined as not having even a puff on a cigarette in the preceding 30 days. Now, obviously, there are going to be other differences in the profile of smokers between the UK and North America, and so we had to account for those, which we did by propensity score matching, which I will explain in a minute. This shows you the profile, both demographics and smoking characteristics of the UK and North American samples. I've highlighted non-daily smoking just to illustrate that in the UK, more of the smokers were non-daily, 51% versus 40% in North America, which we know from other data should be associated with greater levels of switching. And in fact, in just about every one of the characteristics, the UK smokers had characteristics which would have generally favored or predicted higher switching rates. But in any case, we used propensity score matching to control for these differences. What propensity score matching does is capture the difference in the profile in a single score and then match the two samples to minimize the differences. So it results in samples that are actually very similar in terms of profiles. And when we do that, here is what we get. We see that the switching rates are consistently and significantly higher in North America than in the UK. On an odds ratio basis, the odds of switching are increased by 50% in North America versus the UK. And effects of this magnitude at a population level are certainly public health relevant. So we see that in a jurisdiction with higher nicotine concentrations available, we see higher switching rates. Now, the fact is that in North America we see higher switching rates, and the differences are not explained by the demographics or smoker profiles of the UK versus North America. In fact, additionally, although not taken into account in the analysis, the UK should have higher switching rates for another reason, which is that the government and health authorities are much more supportive of e-cigarettes and switching in the UK. Nevertheless, this is an observational study, and we need to take more differences into account, and making a causal attribution to the nicotine levels is very difficult. Nevertheless, what we see is that in a jurisdiction where higher nicotine levels are available in JUUL, we see higher switching rates.